You know, 2020 has been a really funny year for everyone. There has been so much happening right from, you know, January, where we had the Australian bushfires, so many political aspects happening, as well as COVID, and really kind of more recently as well, a lot of diversity issues coming up, especially through the Black Lives Matters campaigns that have been going on. And a lot of this has been happening on a global scale, so it's impacting, you know, people across the world, and the opportunities then that are available to students and graduates have also been impacted by that. So really that's why we want to speak to our wonderful panel today, give you the opportunity to get some advice and information from people who are used to managing and supporting graduates and students in this situation, and what they are really seeing as some of the trends coming through that might impact on how differently recruitment might look for graduates and students going forward. So I think we'll take a couple of minutes just to introduce the panel. So I will ask Jess to come through on her microphone and introduce herself.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. Really glad to be here today. Thank you for inviting me. I'm Head of Professional Development at BPP University, worked in education, higher education for a very long time. I know I only look 25, and that is the case. I have a background in graduate recruitment as well. So I've worked with companies like KPMG, Hobson, Cisco. So hopefully I'll be able to respond to some of your questions and allay some of your fears, which I think is the most important thing that we can do for you today.
Thanks, Jess. And Kristen, over to you.
Good morning, everybody. Saying good morning to you from Austin, Texas. It's a little early here, so apologize for the lighting. Hopefully we'll get brighter sooner. So my experience is managing a global graduate program for a large British manufacturing corporation. It was an amazing experience to be able to bring individuals that have so much energy and new ideas into a manufacturing environment. And my job was to mentor them and take them through that process. So I hope I can give you some insight as to what people are looking for in that type of environment, and what I learned along the way. And I want to make sure that you have some good tips to take forward as you go into trying to find your first role.
Fantastic. And yeah, for everyone's information, you know, my own background, I have also been involved in graduate recruitment and development with different organisations globally, probably for the last 15 years or so. It's a real passion of mine to be able to support graduates and students, and since I set up my own business a few years ago, I have been really keen to support both businesses with setting up the design and development aspects of their programs, as well as looking very much to support and coach graduates and students throughout their job searches and their applications, as well as their I suppose their selection processes, and then as they transition into the workplace. My own experience as a graduate, I went to university quite late. I was a mature student, and I graduated when I was 30. So slightly different approach to some. But when I left university, I had already gained some HR experience. I had a part-time role HR throughout my studies. I was very fortunate. But when I left and I looked for a graduate position, my age really went against me at that point in time. I don't think that's quite so extreme now, but being a mature student, people didn't really want to bring me onto a graduate scheme. It was seen as more for younger graduates. And so I really had to look at different types of opportunities to try and make sure that I got a job role that was suitable for my level of knowledge and understanding in HR at that time, because that was what I graduated in. So yeah, yeah, I think we all have had to take different options and opportunities that perhaps were not the first and foremost in our minds when we first graduated. So now it's kind of over to you guys. We'll be going through some of the questions that you've got, and hopefully we can help you with understanding what that looks like for you in 2020 and beyond. So I've got some questions. My question screen is here, so apologies, I'll be turning back and forward. But we've got a question from Victoria, and Victoria had submitted this prior to the session. So she was asking, how can graduates build industry related experience, especially facing the current challenges, and how can they approach working in a company either as an intern or a part-time person? You know, it's really looking, I think, at the scarcity of opportunities and the fact that a lot is now being carried out remotely. So yeah, I will hand over to Kristen if you want to chip in first on that.
Absolutely. Actually, you have more opportunities than you realize in this current environment. You are not stuck to what's within driving distance of your home. There are opportunities to reach out globally and do internships online. I know here in the US that they're allowing internships from other countries because you're doing it online. There's also opportunities to go somewhere where you would never think of going to intern, but you can use your skill set to help them. And that also would tie into volunteerism. So for instance, if you're really good with logistics, that's something that will carry on, of course, through your career, but that could have some immediate opportunities to help in a volunteerism environment. Say you wanted to volunteer at the local food bank. It's a lot of people with a lot of good intentions, but maybe not very organized. You go in with your logistics mindset and say, okay, I want to organize this. I want to make sure that we're utilizing all of the opportunities to bring in items that we can then disperse out, and you can create a much smoother running machine. So that's something to keep in mind, because not only do employers want to see that you are having internships, they also love to see that volunteerism and where you can really provide benefit to someone. So some internships aren't paid anyway, so why not give back a little bit to your community?
Great.
Jess, you want to add on to that?
Well, I mean, how do you follow that? That's like perfect answer for me. It was why I was doing this a lot of the time. So I think really exactly that, and being a recruiter, the things that you want to see are you know, being really proactive, going out there, giving back to the community is absolutely you know, one of the important things that you like to see in new candidates for new roles. If you go out and do a volunteering position, it's yours for the taking, so you have much more opportunity to steer that in the direction that you want to go in, as Kristen said. I guess a couple of other things that I would probably mention is that you don't have to just look for graduate roles, you know, so don't narrow your focus down on LinkedIn Jobs or Indeed or whatever to something that has graduate in the title. There are so many fixed term opportunities out there. So a fixed term contract is something that might be maternity cover, or, you know, a shorter term contract, and you can get lots of opportunities in different ways that are absolutely no detriment to your you know, how you come across to an employer. So that's one of the ways that I would look at. Kristen mentioned about, you know, virtual internship opportunities, and especially in the UK, you've got really, really great providers of these. You've got Forage, who were inside Sherpa, and you also have Bright Network, who I'm absolutely adore. They're a fantastic organisation, and their internships are so well laid out. You have 3 days with them. You have fantastic organizations involved like Procter & Gamble, Google, all these great employers. They put you into breakout rooms with loads of other teams. You can meet their graduates, so you've got that opportunity to do that networking. They set you tasks that you actually would sort of complete in the real working world as well. And at the end of that process, you are kind of assigned a task that you have to complete, and you're given feedback on that, which is amazing. You also have the opportunity to kind of focus on how you can really articulate that experience back when you go to interview, which for me is one of the most important parts of this. You know, so making sure that the employer understands that your experience is your own. What have you learned from that? That's super important for me. So there's a couple of things there, you know, the voluntary stuff, virtual internships, and not narrowing your search down just to a graduate role. There is so much out there, so much opportunity that's available to you. So proactivity is absolutely key to success here, I think.
Yeah.
Also, I want to add one thing to that, Jess. Don't be short-sighted as to where you can actually have an internship. My daughter actually is working part-time for Apple while she's going to university. Turns out Apple has internal opportunities for internships, not where she wants to eventually possibly go, but once she found out about that and did her research, there's amazing opportunities within Apple, and she just happens to work at the store and fix people's phones and help them buy new ones. And it turned out to be an amazing opportunity. I know Starbucks actually does the same thing. There's so much more than what you're seeing, that counter and those cups. There's so much that goes behind a successful corporation that you have opportunities to intern in those jobs that you never thought otherwise would be relevant to an employer.
Yeah, that was actually the point I was going to make, because a lot of students obviously already have part-time jobs, but it's about, especially where you work for something, an organisation where you've got more than one kind of entity. You know, it might be that it's part of a UK-wide network or a global network, and so typically they have head offices, they've got distribution centres, other sites. And so there might be the opportunity for you to look into internships or additional experience that you might be able to get, even shadowing people in different roles. So some of that's about using the networks that you're already in. And some of that links to another question we've been asked by Olivia, who she's studying actually to be a civil engineer, and she has recognised that actually work experience is pretty key to getting a role, achieving a successful role when she enters the workplace. It's quite commonplace that you would already have some level of experience, and so she's wondering how as people, you know, move into graduate roles or undertaking internships this year, how will they gain that actual work experience? Because yeah, it has to be that it's in that industry sector as such. It's relevant. And also she's keen to understand, you know, what will that mean then? Will people just be relying solely on, you know, your academic qualification, because she feels that's actually a bit of a sad state of affairs if that's all people are going to look at for, you know, recruitment. So yeah, it'd be good to understand whilst they can get experience to boost employability and skills through volunteering and some of the internships, how do you get actually relevant experience? Do you think that's still possible in this current climate?
So one thing I would offer to her, actually, another opportunity is if your community has a local blog page. I know here in the States, we have a community page called Nextdoor, and you want to have an opportunity to use your civil engineering skills, put yourself out there and say, I would love to have an opportunity to help a local business do some sort of improvement to, say, their drainage system, whatnot. I know our local church is going to do an addition, and we have people that just happen to be engineers that are in the community that are going to volunteer their time to do that. That is definitely something that you could put on your resume and provide an opportunity to show your skills. And when you do that, you're also going to be networking. An amazing statistic that just came out about 2 months ago is that 90% of people right now that are looking for roles are not getting them through applying. They're doing it through networking. And I think that is absolutely profound, that you need to start networking. You need to start talking to people, getting yourself out there. Once you get the opportunity to have a large network, you will be stunned what opportunities come available to you.
Jess, anything to add to that?
Yep. So just thinking about you know, some of the stuff that I do with students at BPP. If you're kind of concerned, oh, you know, is the stuff that I've been doing previously going to be any good for this employer, or is really just focusing down on yourself. So having a bit of self-reflection and doing a skills analysis. You can do that pretty easily by having a look at the types of roles that you really want to go for, and sort of looking at what is required, getting that benchmark. So if there are a specific set of qualifications and skills that you're being asked for, what is that skills gap for you, and how do you narrow that down? And then that might mean that you need to go and you know, work at the food bank and do something along those areas or those lines where you can close that skills gap up. And then you can talk to employers about that at interview. So there's that you can kind of focus on. There's, you know, just realizing that employers are savvy. So I hear that there is that concern that you know, that there aren't graduate roles out there. So what does that mean for me? If I haven't got that experience, will I not be you know, kind of any good for an employer? Employers know that. They keep their eye on the market. They're very savvy. They know exactly what's out there and what's not. And if they need to change their recruitment process around a different focus, then they will. So please don't worry yourself too much about that. The absolute key is to be able to articulate your skills and experience at interview so that it's related to you and what you've learned and what your experience is. It's difficult to get USPs right now, but if you are very, very good at explaining your own personal story around somebody's particular skills, competencies, and attributes, then you'll do really, really well at interview.
Yeah, and I do think there is, it is really hard just now, but I think that using your network is going to be really key, because once you get into your network, you can perhaps even be saying to someone, you know, are you working on any projects where you might need some support? Are you working on something that actually I could come and shadow you in a meeting? It's about, yeah, trying to think of clever ways where you can get some of that actual more kind of hands-on relevant experience, if that is what your particular discipline or field of study would require you to get. So it's thinking, yeah, a bit more, hate to use the term, but outside the box for, you know, what you're actually would be used to doing. It could be that actually you recognize, well, you've got 5 hours a week, or, you know, you might have, you know, a full day where actually you don't have any classes. So how can you use your network to try and just use that day to get access to some of the different projects that would help you get an understanding of how to put your learning, then see how that's working in practice, but you might not actually get physically involved in being the person doing some of the work. But it's valuable experience. And I think there is also the awareness of what is it that employers are actually expecting students to have in terms of their experience, because it can be quite overwhelming for students. You know, you've got all these boxes to tick, you know, boost your employability, get the part-time job you need actually to get some income, you know, be able to gain some relevant experience, show that you're doing volunteering and you're interested in your community, still have a life, you know, be able to finish your studies. There's so many things going on. You've got all these balls you're juggling in the air. So I think you have to be realistic about what is it that they actually want, employers are actually looking for when they talk about experience. And a lot of that is transferable skills. And so whilst it would be amazing if you have got some like job specific experience, employers recognise that that's really difficult to come by, and that it's getting more and more difficult in this current situation. So please don't beat yourself up about that. Make the most of the experience you can get and that you can sell to employers for yourself, because trying to put too much pressure on yourself to do everything it doesn't do you any favours, you know, and you don't want to be burnt out just as you're, you know, entering the workplace. So yes, on to the next question. We have a question from Abhishek, who's asking, why is it so difficult to find graduate jobs in the UK? He has said that he thinks this is relatively easy in the US. And so it's quite interesting. We've got a US UK panel, so it will be quite interesting to get your thoughts on that. I don't know, Kristen, do you want to go first?
Absolutely. Well, Abhishek, I will tell you that my role, as I said, it was actually for a British company that has entities all over the globe. And I had a total of 12 graduates in the UK. And so I was able to see it from that perspective as an American running the program. And I can tell you there are opportunities. It's looking for them in places that maybe, especially right now, that you wouldn't expect or anticipate that there would be. And it doesn't have to fall in line exactly with what you're doing as far as your degree. So you have a little bit more of an open mindset of how am I going to do this? And I know you also mentioned on the LinkedIn piece, it's critical to have a good LinkedIn profile as a graduate. I went and looked. What do my graduates have on social media? That is something that employers are looking at now, because what you project yourself, it could, if you were employed by a company, project onto the company as well. So having a good professional LinkedIn profile, and that's where you can build your network. But going back to your question, can you get internships? Why is it so hard to get internships in the UK? It's not as hard as, well, I will go back to last year. It's not as hard as you think. It's just, where are you looking? Are you looking at one sole source to be able to find that information? Have a much broader idea of, okay, this is the skill set that I want to be able to enhance. I want to be able to show where I have value. So where can you use that skill set? Don't just think from an engineering mindset. Think about what that is. It application engineering? Is it mechanical engineering? Where can you use those skills? So think outside of the box, because that's the sort of thing that really jumps out to employers. Lisa and I had the opportunity to collaborate last year for the hiring of the graduates for Morgan Advanced Materials, which is a very large manufacturing company in the UK, based out of the UK on the FTSE 100. And the number one candidate that stood out to us, actually the thing that made him stand out to us most, was the fact that he was able to achieve something that not a lot of people can. He played the French horn at age 18 for the BBC Proms at Edinburgh Castle. That shows tremendous dedication to his craft. And he was a great engineer as well, but the fact that we asked him, tell us a little bit about yourself, tell us something that you're really passionate about, to show that amount of dedication to something was phenomenal at age 18. And as it turns out, of course, he was the best number one graduate that we have as far as an engineer, and he's progressing exponentially. But it wasn't his engineering that really caught our eye. It was his dedication to something else outside of that that really spoke to us. So think about what you do outside of that discipline that you're studying, that you can really show in a way that makes you shine.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with those points. And I think kind of focusing in on LinkedIn, I am on LinkedIn all the time, sadly. So I've learned a lot from being on lots of webinars and things like that around personal branding, the importance of it now, how you should be your authentic self. And I know we're trolled a lot for being our authentic selves, but that is what the market is crying out for, is for your story, because it's yours, it's nobody else's. And articulating that once you get in front of an employer is really, really important. So I'll share a couple of really, really good follows that I'm connecting with and work with So you've got guys like Eric Eklund, Florian Eberhardt, you've got Neil Bearden, who I talked to Lisa and Kristen about the other day, who is a chief storyteller, or was, for INSEAD, and he really focused on this importance of being that memorable candidate, which is something that Kristen has just kind of touched on. With the French horn. I mean, that's certainly something that you're going to remember, that sets you apart from other candidates. And like I said, employers are really savvy. They will make the connection, they will connect the dots between somebody that presents something to them and tells them something about themselves, and how that will impact on the workplace. We do it, it's our bread and butter. So there are lots of different things that you can involve yourself in. There's loads of training and advice and guidance that you can use. But I think the most important thing is really think about who you want to be known as and what you want to stand out as on LinkedIn. There are lots of people putting out videos right now, and lots of people changing their profiles to reflect what it is that they're trying to do and who they want to be seen as. So I would start to think about following some individuals that you first of all respect, your role models, and see what they do, how they present themselves, and that might be a good starting place. But I'll definitely follow up with some of these follows that are really, really good for giving you some tips on your LinkedIn profile.
Yeah. And I think as well, certainly in the UK, we do have some really good organisations who are supporting students, and a lot of these are actually student-led organisations.
Yep.
So it's like, yeah, students for students, and they've set up like, I can think of like Legal Cheek as one, and definitely also one to look into is Studenteer. So if you're looking for an internship in the UK, they work to set students up with voluntary or charitable organisations, and that gives you an opportunity to try to get some experience based on the qualification that you're studying. So it's not just getting the experience for the transferable skills, but also they try to match it up with being able to support you getting some actual experience. So we will include the link for Studenteer, and also any of the other organisations or places to follow that we can think of that would help. We can send them out in the follow-up email to you, so you've got access to them. And so I wanted to, we do have Izun, is that how you pronounce your name? So you can correct me obviously when you join. Izun's got a question that they would like to ask.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you so much to panels for giving insight into how can build up kind of experience and stuff. So due to pandemic, I was unable to get a long-term, a proper internship with the company, but over the summer, done online courses. I actually did 2 of the Bright Network internships, which is amazing. I would recommend anyone if they're still able, they have the on-demand ones. If anyone's interested in that, they can do that. And I've also entered competitions like data science and part of week-long like design sprint program, creating an application and stuff. So I think my question is, will the fact that I don't have a real internship with a company for like 8 weeks or 12 weeks halt my opportunity to get a graduate role? Because it is very competitive, and I've seen friends that have got a graduate role after they're done with internships, and I'm like a bit kind of sad. But yeah, what do everyone else think? Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I just want to say, first of all, Izwin, well done for coming on and chatting to us. That's, that shows to me that you are the kind of candidate that an employer would want. You're quite happy to have a conversation and get involved. So well done, first of all, for doing that, because it's quite difficult. This is a bit of an interrogation, I guess. So what I just want to reiterate from something that I said previously was that employers are very savvy. They know this is a difficult market out there. And some of the things that you've said that you've been involved in are absolutely fantastic. And that is what we would want from you as a recruiter. but it will very much just come down to that articulating that at interview. So really focus down on what those core competencies are of that particular organization that you want to apply for. What are the skills? What are the attributes that they're looking for? And link those two experiences together, because there's a great guy that you could follow, which I mentioned, Neil Beard, and one of the things that he says is it's important to be that memorable candidate. And you are completely different to the other 10 people who are going for this role. So don't try and be the same. Yeah. You might have a similar graduate background, you might have a similar part-time job, but what is it that makes you you? And how can you tell employers about that? So that would be really what I would focus on, your individual story. I can see you smiling. I can tell that you've got so much about you. So that is the most important thing that you can get across to an employer.
Absolutely. I will underscore that 100%. Do not feel that because you don't have your vision of what an internship should be on a piece of paper, you have a great smile on your face, you have good energy. I can tell you nothing sucks the life out of a recruiter than sitting on a Zoom call, doing an interview with somebody for 45 minutes, and they are expressionless. They give 1- and 2-word answers. That will kill you. It doesn't matter how many internships you have. The energy that you bring will say so much about you as a person. It really, really makes a difference. I can't tell you enough. The other thing is to piggyback on to what Jess said. It's really important that, yes, you have your story, but be sincere, be genuine. Don't don't make it more than it is, because also you can do the flip where they think, wow, that was a little bit extreme. That went a little bit left field. That got a little weird. So, you know, be true to yourself, but the things that you're doing is all the right things. The other part of it is you have the opportunity to engage with people online. So if you don't necessarily can't do a quote unquote internship, reach out to your local school. Can I ask you, what is your degree in?
I study economics and politics.
Okay, so I'm going to guess that your local primary school or secondary school are teaching that right now. So my husband is actually a teacher, a high school teacher in the US. And I can promise you they would love to have something a little bit different to be able to provide their students one afternoon, as opposed to his face on a screen talking about health and nutrition. So if you were to reach out to your local school and say, I would love to be able to come and do a Zoom call with your students for an hour and talk about my insights and what my specialty is. And to be able to put that on a resume is because you put yourself out there, you organize the event, you were able to impact others. A lot of these careers, these STEM-based careers, that's what these STEM teachers are looking for, to be able to provide something different and unique to their students. And the fact that you go out and do something like that, I was with Samsung Austin Semiconductor for 8 years, and I led the STEM program. And that is actually something the engineers at Samsung are required to do. So if I saw that as an employer when I was still with Samsung, that you went and did that on your own, you're already taking that mindset of going out into the community and having an impact, which is really, really huge these days. And it's growing. It is a growing movement. So maybe that's something that you want to do. So it's not a traditional internship, but no, you know what? I went out and talked to 16-year-olds about my insights into economics. It's a great opportunity that I think you would be really good at because you have a great personality.
I love that. I just have to say that's such a brilliant idea. And you know, you could go like one step further potentially. When we're talking about LinkedIn profiles, maybe have some little video clips of some of the stuff that you've done and start building that personal brand. You know, the greatest thing that we can offer during a crisis is ourselves. You know, and all of the companies that have pivoted and survived during COVID-19 have been the ones that really are authentic and they're giving stuff back to other people. So that would go down so well. They're just perfect, that, Kristen.
And I can add to that by, I suppose, letting you into not so much a secret, but just giving you a bit of insight from actually what's happening with employers and what their thoughts are at the moment around about all this, because, you know, as Jess and Kristen have already said, you know, these are real people who are going to be part of the interview panels and selection processes that they go to. They're not expecting you to have run a multi-million-pound project and have, like, you know, lots and lots of achievements like that someone later in their career would have. But what they are recognising is that perhaps their expectations of what a graduate should come to employment with at the end of a degree, with transferable skills, you know, with perhaps some work experience, not necessarily in their specific field. You know, perhaps that is what they should be looking for. And so they are having to manage their own expectations. They are having to rethink things and not expect that people are going to come with, they've done a summer placement every single year in a relevant company, that they are, you know, juggling all the balls and being able to do that for a full 4-year course, you know, being able to maintain that. It's not possible because you've got a lot of different things to manage during that time. So they are having to rethink, well, what is it that actually we are expecting of students? And I think for a lot of companies, from what I'm hearing, they are actually realising that they have been putting pressure on candidates to actually be something that's not really possible. And so now what they're seeing this year for the companies who have been recruiting, they are able to actually recognise that they're still getting some excellent candidates. They're recruiting amazing graduates, but they're not necessarily people who have had those experiences, certainly not this year, because it has been all remote, it has been online. And what they're looking at is how quickly have people adapted, how much have they taken on these opportunities, and actually how then are they using those opportunities to, as Jess and Kristen have already said, to then talk about that at an interview and be able to put yourself across. So I think it's very important that you don't start to, you know, compare yourself to some mold that doesn't exist, or to compare yourself to other candidates. Be you and think about how you can be the best version of you to put across to these companies so that they know what they're getting, you know, if you are successful.
And if I can just quickly add to that, so that kind of just fits in with something that I really wanted to say before the session is finished, that there are, you know, a couple of skills that have come out of COVID-19 that are absolutely, you know, paramount to employment at the moment. One of them is your cognitive agility. So that's the ability to run with upskilling, you know, picking up new skills and working out how you can utilize that in a workplace. And then of course resilience as well. So exactly what you've just said, Lisa, you know, the employers are really recognizing now that cardboard cutout that they used to expect everyone to kind of fit through doesn't really exist anymore. They're changing things around and they're starting to focus on those particular skills when they put you through a recruitment process. So the more you can show them of this, the more they recognize that actually you're an individual that has been, you know, has struggled in adversity but come through the other side, and you are the type of person that will perpetuate their business forward.
Yeah, completely. I think they are recognizing that diversity of candidate is so important, you know, because when they look at their workforce, they want that to be diverse, because that then reflects their candidate, their client base, or their the market that they service, you know. So the more diverse their workforce is, the more, you know, they're able to then reflect that back into what they're offering and products and services and so on. So if they have everyone that comes in that's just the same, you know, that's not going to really help to build and grow that business, or encourage them to think differently, or, you know, be disruptive in the market that they're in. So it's really important that people can be themselves and bring their whole self to a job. And I think a lot of organisations are really opening up to that fact. We've got a question from Aisling, and she is wondering what the best advice is on what the best time is when they're job how to use the best of their time is actually when they are job hunting. You know, do we have recommendations for online courses that they could do that focus on data, social media, etc.? How can they boost their employability in the time that they've got? So yeah, what are your thoughts on that? How do they best use the time they've got for yeah, creating their applications and their job search?
I would say any time is a good time right now. Nothing is working the traditional way anymore. Employers are having to just look at what they've got now and look at what they need. They're working much more agile than they used to. So, you know, previously big recruiters would have very specific set times when they would recruit for their graduates or their internships. But you'll find that a lot of the bigger recruiters now are working in a much more agile way, which is fantastic because it means that more students will fit into this particular process. So any time I would say at the moment is really good. Lots of smaller organizations, so your startups, are really looking for people with data and social media backgrounds. And one of the biggest growth areas that we're seeing at the moment in the UK is social media and marketing. So for example, you had Boohoo, who were a virtually, you know, just a brand that you would associate with sort of cheap clothes. They have absolutely pushed themselves through to be, if you look at some of social change stuff on LinkedIn, they are like #1 in terms of their social media and marketing for what they've done. They've bought out Warehouse, Oasis, all these amazing organizations that you would never expect for that small company to be able to do. So social media and marketing, Ashleen, absolutely the best area you can be looking at right now. And I would say that if you wanted to follow anybody on LinkedIn, a company called Red Sprout Media is top notch. They're really great. They've got really interesting content, and they really tell you how you can start to build some of your experiences using something they called eerie content, which is brilliant. In terms of what you can do for those types of courses online, I don't know if you've got access to LinkedIn Learning. I'm a big advocate of it. I know it's expensive if you haven't got it through your university. Some universities are doing that now. Ours is one of them. But there are loads and loads of courses that you can do. So they're called MOOCs. They're called massive online open learning courses or something like that, the MOOCs. And you can generally find those quite easily.
I would also say that when you're on LinkedIn, it's really important to start to have an idea of what are you interested in. Start going, take the time to, you know, an hour of who really interests you, who really piques your interest as far as I want to model myself off of that person. Start following. They put out a lot of stuff. I follow a mentoring and coach on LinkedIn, Jim Johnson, and he does a book recommendation once a week. And if he's talking about that book, then the content of that book is something that, you know, really gets him going. Maybe somebody you follow that has a role that you want to pursue, maybe they do those types of things. So you want to model that behavior. So definitely you want to find people that are good examples of what you want it to look like in the end. What I'm known for all of my graduates that I've hired over the years is I always ask the question, what do you want it to look like? What do you want the end result to look like? So think about your career. What do you want that end result to look like? Do you want to be an engineer at Google? So therefore, go out into LinkedIn and search employees at Google, engineers, see what they're posting, what they're talking about, and start to model that behavior and look more at what they're doing. The other thing that I really want to make sure that I cover is we're an online world now in so many ways, like what we're doing now. You've got to get comfortable with yourself on camera. It's very different than taking a selfie. You got to be comfortable talking. You've got to make sure the environment that you're presenting in the background, for instance, it's going to speak a lot about you. Now, I don't care if you have sweatpants and slippers on from the waist down, but what you're projecting on that screen is vital, absolutely vital. Did they take the time to make sure that their bed was made if they're doing this from their bedroom? or if did they make sure that, you know, they didn't have spinach in their teeth when they're talking, because it's pretty close up. You're getting a very small shot of the person. So make sure that you're presenting yourself and you're getting comfortable. So there's something that I've always heard from recruiters, and it's that 30-second elevator pitch, right? Do you have a 30, I know people talk about it, but have you taken the time to do it? What's your 30-second elevator pitch for yourself? Now, take it to the next level, record yourself doing it and watch it back. Watch your facial expressions. Are you really monotone? All of those things. Are you passionate about it? Do that 30-second elevator pitch, record it, get good at it, because when you do it and it's second nature to you, it's going to come across really, really well, and it's going to make an impact, I promise.
Some actually brilliant advice there. And I think when it comes to looking at things like your online courses, Aisling, it is very much going back to that training gap analysis, you know, that Jess mentioned as well. You know, is there something that you really need for the job that you want? You know, is there a skill there that actually you feel you're not so strong on, or that you've had feedback on that you could be doing with developing that slightly more? And if so, then that gives you an indication of the type of course you might want to do. And there's a lot out there that's free, that's good quality, you know, so yeah, you can go out there and find so much that will help support you in this job search. And I think in terms of best use of your time, one of the things I always recommend everyone to do in our Graduate Ambitions programme is to make sure you've got a project you plan. Think about what it is that you need to be doing throughout the time of your job hunt. And particularly for graduates, you're probably looking at a plan for the next 6 to 9 months, because there's a long lead-in time for some of these job roles. So how are you fitting that in around about your classes and other commitments? And what particularly are those other commitments? How do they change from month to month? So how much time have you actually got to dedicate to, you know, your job search preparations and being able to target a job and a company, and perhaps target some people on LinkedIn, you know, start to build up some of those networks. So yeah, I think if you build yourself a plan and you make sure you review that and update it, that will really help you keep focused when you're going through your job hunt. And so I know that we do actually have a couple of additional questions that we're actually not going to get to in the time that we've got. But what we will be doing with them is we will be posting those questions on LinkedIn, just on our Strategic Ambitions page, and we'll tag in those of you who have asked these questions, and we'll also be able to then make sure that other people can also see the responses, you know, in the comments for the question. Then we will go back, myself and Kristen and Jess, and respond to those questions. So you will still get a response. I just wanted to take a quick moment to remind you that as part of this series, because there will be additional events that will come in the following months right through to March next year, we'll be having a Q&A session just with a different focus, different panel members, so you can look out for them. We will be sending you out details of that, but for all of the panel members who are involved, where they have graduate and student opportunities, we'll be sharing them with you throughout the course of the next 6 months. So for any panel members, you'll get them even if you're not able to attend the role, so you'll get access to some opportunities directly. And as well as that, you will be getting a code. The code for this month is Sept QA, so SEPT QA, and we'll be sending you the link and that code that will be available for you to use over the next couple of weeks if you want to sign up for the Graduate Ambitions Coaching Programme, and that will give you a reduction in the cost of that. So additional benefits still to come to you along with the opportunities. And I want to say a huge thank you to all of you who have asked questions. It's been really good, really insightful to see what is coming up for you guys, and some of the key themes around about your concerns and uncertainties. And hopefully myself and Kristen and Jess have been able to you know, give you some insights into what the recruiters are actually looking for, and how to kind of enhance your job search, and things that you might be able to do to look at and building on your employability skills and so on. So a huge thank you to Kristen and Jess for today as well, and also a huge thank you to Judith, who's part of my team, who has been behind the scenes just kind of making sure that we are sticking to time, and also making sure that, you know, we're getting through as many questions as we possibly can. So thank you very much. But I hope to see you again in future on future Q&As. And in the meantime, if you need anything at all, feel free to reach out through LinkedIn to ask any questions, or for any other advice, or if you're needing particular contacts or links to anything, let us know and we'll try and help you as much as possible. Okay, so thanks so much for your time this afternoon, everyone. Bye.